And there we are. As I said, my name is Chris Brant from Unmissable England, and I'm your host for this workshop. I'll hand over to Sarah now, who will give you a bit of background about the project. You might not be so familiar with the North Devon biosphere, and if that's the case, then I'm sure Sarah's going to enlighten you even further. Sarah.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everybody. My name's Sarah Jordan from North Devon UNESCO Biosphere. I also work with Tourist District Council as Nature Tourism Officer. Very quickly, North Devon Biosphere was given a UNESCO status back in the 70s, and then the sort of newer version of a biosphere reserve in the early 2000s. I can probably send a bit more information around following the webinar on the post-meeting email that I send, for those of you that aren't familiar with it. It's lovely to see some familiar faces on here again today, and also some new ones too. My role with Torridge District Council and with the Biosphere as Nature Tourism Officer is to help you showcase our area's natural assets and adventure activities. So we have asked Chris to come along and host this information webinar for you, because I had a lot of businesses telling me that they really wanted help with marketing and reaching new audiences. So Chris ran a couple of webinars for us last year on experiential tourism, and I can send recordings of those to you if you would like a copy of those too. But for now, I will hand you back over to Chris to get the webinar started. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks very much, Sarah. And it is good to see some familiar faces on the call today. So good to see you again. A bit of background about me and about my business. I work for Unmissable England. I'm actually the founder and director of Unmissable England. We focus very much on experiential tourism, as Sarah mentioned, and really look for experiences that work really well for domestic and international visitors coming to places like North Devon and the Biosphere, and to actually get beneath stories and the people and the places. So these three on your screen right now are just three of our experience makers in the UK at the moment. We've got Sunita there doing Indian cooking in a forest. Got Hannah there doing a forest bathing experience and a bit of foraging as well. And then Ed, who's an organic farmer, who's the Rebel Farmer experience down in Kent. So we try and find people, bring those stories to life through people and place. And we'll come back onto those kind of things throughout the webinar this afternoon about how you market and how you bring those stories that you might be offering either in an experience, a tour, your accommodation, your attraction. So whatever your tourism business might be. So we're not just talking about experiences today. Please do check out our website, unmissableengland.com, where you'll find all those experiences, and you might get some inspiration as well if you are looking to develop your own experience further. So let's take you on what this afternoon's workshop looks like. So it's all about kind of reaching new markets. So we're going to look at the difference between the domestic and the inbound international markets, and see what you kind of offer at the moment, and maybe you're looking to adapt or to adjust to a particular market, or actually open up further to both markets. We'll be looking at what your markets are and which markets you could be focusing on. So I'm talking about different countries if you're looking to do more international marketing, but also segment groups, audiences within those markets as well. We'll be looking at how to define your product, so the really important part of value and pricing as well. I know a lot of tourism businesses spend a lot of time thinking about and working out their pricing and looking at distribution and how they sell their products. So lots of advice and support on that later on. I'm going to introduce or hopefully enlighten you further to the travel trade distribution system. It's often complex. I won't pretend it is complex, but hopefully this afternoon you'll go away with a lot more information and understand it, so you can find your route through the right ways of how to distribute any product. And that brings us on to get into market. We've got various kind of conversations, activities and discussions that you can get involved with throughout the webinar this afternoon. So lots to cover, and hopefully you'll find it really interesting. as well. So Sarah and I run these webinars and workshops in person as well, and what we always do is look at actually who we've got in the room. Obviously we can't do that as much on a webinar, but what I would love for you to do is just to introduce yourselves into the chat window. So as I said, that chat feature, you can either find the button at the top or bottom of your screen. Just click on that and just tell us who you are, where you're from, what your business is, and what your current market situation is at the moment. So do you market to everyone, and therefore you don't actually have a strategy or a plan of how you're actually marketing to a domestic or an inbound audience? Are you geared more for an international market? You're thinking actually, oh, I really want to get more people coming from mainland Europe coming over, and actually, you know, that's my focus. Or maybe you've just never thought about it before. Just pop it down into the chat window, and love to hear who we've got in the webinar today, and just, you know, about your business as well. Just give you just a moment to do that before I move on to the next section. And I've got a few more people just joining us into the workshop this afternoon. So I'm just going to say, once they've joined, good afternoon. If you are just joining us, you're very welcome. We're just introducing ourselves into the chat feature at the moment, to say who you are, what business you're coming from, and what your current market situation is at the moment. Are you marketing to everyone? Are you focused more in kind of regional, you know, regions, or domestic UK visitors, or are you looking at actually doing more with the international markets? So that's just really helpful for us to know kind of where you're at. But also it's really good networking opportunity as well. So you might find other people, other businesses in that chat that you might want to also have a conversation with, and possibly even work together with. Okay, as you're doing that, I'll move ahead. So bit of an introduction then to that domestic and international markets, then, also known as the inbound market, and really to begin, kind of highlighting the difference. So what I find usually across tourism businesses across the UK, very familiar with the domestic market, very, you know, we've understood this market and worked with our own market for a very long time. So therefore our visitors, our travelers are, you know, obviously familiar with our destinations, and they're obviously familiar with England as well. Therefore those marketing costs are going to be a lot lower than your international marketing costs, and it's something that we're used to doing. So, but you know, it's a no-brainer to do the domestic market, and this works really well in the kind of summer holidays and school holidays to kind of target family groups, for example. But actually working with an international market can be a little bit more complex, and therefore it will be higher kind of marketing costs as well. And obviously, if you're going to work with the international market, you know, the world's a big place. So who are you going to target? Who are you going to, you can't just say, okay, I'm here for everyone. You've got to really think about the different audiences. And we're going to highlight some of those audiences and those different markets for you today. So as well as the higher marketing costs, there's the whole educational piece as well. Where exactly is North Devon? You know, what is a biosphere, and what is it? So it's all this kind of information you need to have on your website, your information when you're marketing either your accommodation, your experiences, or whatever your products is. You need to have that kind of geography piece and say exactly where you are, how many miles you are from an international airport, how many miles you are from a port, if people are arriving by boat, and all those different connectivities. So with international visitors, they're going to be looking for that information at first hand. How do I get to you? And that's going to be really important as well. Now, back in 2019, the domestic audience accounted for 77%, and the international market 23%. So unfortunately, this data is a little bit old now, because we've had obviously the pandemic and COVID and everything. We're still waiting for some fresh data from 2022. But it just kind of tells us that we have got the inbound nationally, that audience, but it's something we can potentially grow as well. And actually welcome international visitors is really good for business and good for growth in tourism in the UK. because we know international visitors tend to spend longer in a destination, and therefore they tend to spend more money than domestic travellers as well. We still love domestic travellers. They're great, and they work for short breaks, but actually engaging with international visitors can really help and actually either extend your season or ensure your season is actually running throughout the year. Who exactly are your markets? Who are your international markets? First of all, who's your domestic markets? Well, mostly the domestic audiences that come to North Devon are already from the southwest region. So they're people living in Somerset, maybe in South Devon, in Cornwall, in Dorset, towards Bristol way. So they're people pretty regional, pretty local. So these are the people that I might do a day trip or a night away or a weekend's break. And these are easy customers to get ideally. And then that's followed by more of the southern England. So people coming across from Hampshire to Kent to London up to Oxfordshire. And these are the people looking more for a weekend break or a Monday to Friday kind of holiday, possibly off season or in that kind of lower season that we now tend to refer to it. So we're not going to cover too much about the domestic market today. I want you to kind of go away with a bit more information about the international inbound market so that you can actually start focusing on how to target them. So here's a question for you. Which of these 4 neighbouring markets ranked the highest for inbound visits to Britain back in 2019? We've got France, we've got Germany, we've got the Netherlands and Belgium. So I'll let you just have a little ponder. These are our nearest neighbours, and I'm asking you which ones were the highest visits to the UK back in 2019. And I can reveal it was France. So the French are second globally ranked into the UK before the pandemic, and that still probably is very much the case. The most popular market and demand globally to the UK is the American audience, who tend to go to the kind of bigger cities, so London, York, Stonehenge, Windsor, those kind of places. But there tends to be a big shift for the American audience to actually go to more of rural England and actually to get away from the kind of cities and get off the beaten track. But going back to our markets, what we're looking at today, number 2 for the French. The great thing is, as we can see, that spread of the seasons, that travel to the UK, is quite a nice consistent flow. So even in January, March, 23% are coming in the winter months as well. And on average, their length of stay is 5 nights. So, which is quite a nice length of stay if you're an accommodation provider or even an attraction or experience. You've got them engaged, you've got them there as well. And from a sustainable tourism point of view, which is obviously what we're all about and what these workshops are very much about, that group of people also will come by tunnel and also a bit by sea. But obviously, people also using the airplane as well, coming across from other parts of France, maybe not so near to England. So the French market could be a potential audience for you to attract. Our second out of our 4 is Germany, which ranks 3rd after France. And the Germans like to spend about 6 nights. Now, on average, they like to spend a bit less than us Brits on an experience or on a holiday. So if you're offering, an experience or accommodation that's a little bit more at the higher end, you might want to, delve a bit further into the German audiences to appeal that to that particular audience. But on average, as I say, the Germans tend to want to spend a little bit less on their travel to the UK because it's not a big trip. It's not a big, long kind of whole, kind of going to America or Australia where we would spend more money doing big travel. So very much around walking, hiking, the great outdoors. The Germans really do love these kind of things. And again, they come throughout the year. So, yes, 29% July, September, but April and June, 25%, October, December, 25% as well, with that average 6-night stay as well. And the great thing with the German audience is that they like to plan. So it's kind of what we expect. They like to be organized, they like to plan. So 6 months ahead before traveling, they're thinking about their trip coming to North Devon, coming to the UK. So if you've got, social media out there, or you're doing some promotion, you're kind of giving them those ideas 6 months before travel. And that's great for a small business, because we like to know, as a small business, to be organized, have a plan, and know when their visitors are coming. So the Germans are a really good audience for that. The third market is the Netherlands. Again, these guys rank 7th. Shorter stay, 4 nights, but again have a good throughout the year compared to other markets. 27% between October and December, which is good for this international traveller. And again, the 68% of the Dutch markets are thinking about their trip 3 or more months before actually arriving in the UK. So there's a lot of planning going on. So they're not last minute kind of holidays on average. And finally, Belgium. Again, it's ranking 9th out of all of the markets coming to the UK. And again, there's a good spread more or less on there, and 26% October, December, or April to June, 26% there as well. Shorter stay, 3 nights. But they are coming, and this group is a good group if you're thinking more about the sustainability. 61% are arriving by the tunnel as well, and they are traveling. They're not just arriving and going to Kent and Sussex. They are traveling right through and down to Cornwall and to the north as well. So again, another audience just to think about. So just some ideas there from a sustainable point of view of international markets you can be approaching. And here are the kind of traditional lead-in times. So, the Germans, as I said, 6 months before, but on average, 44% of Germans are booking, 3 to 6 months, which is really high. So, if you're looking for that organisation, that planning, knowing exactly your availability and staffing and resourcing, a German audience is really good to have, as well as the French there as well. It gives you some ideas. So I'm going to give you some of the latest inbound market data. So this data comes from Visit England, Visit Britain, which is the National Tourist Board organisation that looks after all the stats and figures and marketing the UK to the international markets. And we can see here, you might have to kind of look really closely on your screen, but we can see the kind of short haul markets that come to England, followed by all the different destinations. So London at the top there. And you can see the southwest, Bristol, Bath, Devon, and Cornwall there. And you can see the short haul regions, which actually got the most visitors back in 2019. So actually, no, this is 2021 data, actually. No, 2022 data, and correct myself. So latest data there on the short haul, and you can see how we compare in the southwest to other parts of the country, other regions as well. So you can see, the 26% there are coming from Germany, which is scoring really high there on the short haul. So if we look at those countries, we can see what kind of things they're looking for. If we just highlight on the German market, 52% are looking for coastline experiences in their trip. So the North Devon's biosphere has beautiful countryside and coastline. And that really attracts that audience of Germans coming, as well as the French there as well. And then we can delve right into detail of the types of activities and interests that those groups of people from those markets are coming. And these are things you might want to have a look at after the session today, just in a bit more detail, because obviously it applies to, we've got many different types of businesses in the workshop today. So each of these different areas.
Can I ask, is it possible to make the slides you're putting up full screen?
Oh, can you not see it full screen?
I can't really read them very easily. My reading's obviously not very clever.
They are on full screen, Chris. Louise, you may want to just change your view. So you may, if you've got a lot of us showing in your side panel,
No, I can just see you, Sarah.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
So you're side by side the slide.
Okay.
And the figures, I mean, I
sure.
can't really read the writing on the blue panel on the left. I can just about make out the figures.
Okay. These slides I will be sending them round afterwards.
Okay.
So don't despair, you will get a chance to see them and be able to zoom in on them yourself and take some time to look through them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Absolutely, Louise. There is so much data on here, and we'll send all this to everybody so you can see actually how this all works. But as I said, the main messages from here, is that French market, the German market, the Netherlands. We haven't got data here for Belgium on here on this current one. It gives you an idea and a flavour of the types of activities those markets are looking to do. And then when we look at actually where those markets are booking and those different channels when they're booking their international trip to the UK, interestingly enough, the travel agent, an online travel agent, scores really highly as well. So just with short haul, 34%, and then you've got that comparison website at 35% as well, and then with airlines and followed by airlines and ferries as well. And then obviously with destination management websites like the North Devon Biosphere website, for example, or Visit Devon, etc. Those are the places as well. So we'll come on to those booking channel managers and all those different ways to get booking and booked up later on. Let's move on to market segmentation, and actually understanding who we're trying to attract is obviously really important. So some businesses say to me, "Oh, Chris, we're trying to reach everyone," and that always makes me a little bit worried, because I think actually that's not quite a strategic kind of approach. So actually thinking about the who, the why, the where, and the how, and how what those customers are how they're going to find out about you is really important. So thinking about who, you might after today say, no, we definitely just want to focus on a domestic audience. We're not quite ready for an international market or an audience yet. Or you actually might say, yeah, we want to do a bit of both. We want to have what we've been doing to the domestic market, but we want to open up and we want to sell our products globally. We want people from abroad to know that we exist, and we want to make sure that they know about us and they can book with us as well. So who, why, where, and how is really important when you're thinking about the customer segmentation of those different markets. And when it comes to markets and those different segments, Visit Britain and Visit England have two main characteristics, and they call them buzz seekers and explorers. Now, just a word of warning, these names do change from year to year, maybe even month to month. They always got some other new jargon to call them, but mostly a buzz seeker is a person usually aged between 25 and 34. They are looking for a holiday that has lots of action and excitement. They might not necessarily be looking for a full-on adventure adrenaline experience, like jumping off a cliff or white water rafting, for example, but they do want to have some activity, whether that's a big hike or a long walk or doing a cookery experience. They are looking for that level of excitement and interest. And then you've got your explorer, which tends to be 45 upwards. They love the great outdoors. It's the must-see sites, it's the heritage, it's the history, it's the local culture, it's bringing all those stories to life. These are two audience segments I think as a business you should be thinking about. These are the most popular segments that come into the UK from the international markets. These are particularly people that don't have children, so they're traveling throughout the year. So they're not just you're not just reliant on getting them for the summer holidays or any school holidays. So on average, they're that kind of pre-nester and empty nester. So more phrases there being used. So the pre-nester is people that they're going to have children. They've got that free time, that extra bit of cash to spend and splash on their holiday. And the people 45 plus, on average, if they've had their children, they might have gone off to work, university, college, etc. And therefore, they've got more free time to spend on a trip and various different experiences. So it's kind of good to get in the mindset of your customer. So think about who they are, and you know, not just where they are, but who they are, what kind of things they like to do in, and what would they like about your product, your experience, your accommodation, your attraction. Now, an experienced buzz seeker or an explorer will be different. You know, the different French explorer will be different to an American explorer, for example. So it's not just one size fits all. Kind of need to get a bit further into that, and those figures that I shared with you in the previous slides kind of will help you kind of get a bigger picture around those different audiences. Now, generally speaking, and this can apply to a domestic audience as well, we're seeing more and more people who are kind of in these categories of the market segmentation, which are the walkers and cyclists and people looking for car-free holidays as well. So they can actually get around by bike, electric bike, using public transport where possible as well. And this is, again, really great from a sustainable tourism point of view for the biosphere, that we're looking for more travel, more holidays using these kind of modes of transportation. And they're a really good audience to engage with as well. So, you know, using and promoting through Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and those kind of places, actually targeting to these audiences is a really good tactic. But when you're doing that, you also need to make sure that you have the right setup as well. So it's no good just marketing to these audiences who people like a good walk, or you know, want to go and do an e-bike adventure. You've got to make sure you've got the infrastructure as well. So, for example, if you're trying to appeal more to walkers and cyclists, you know, have you got the setup to welcome them? Have they got somewhere to store their bike? Have you got puncture repair kits ready? You know, do you offer all of the stuff like that? You know, can they bring their dogs? You know, have you got somewhere to put their muddy boots? So are you really kind of cycle and walker friendly? Are you set up to actually market that audience, whether they're from the UK, Germany, or wherever? So you might, out of today's workshop, you might say, actually, that's an audience I'm going to work on. I'm going to work on getting more outdoorsy explorers, people that like to walk and cycle. But in order to do that, it's not just me marketing with a picture of people cycling. I need to actually have the right setup. So, you know, having things like puncture repair kits and different things like that are a great message and a great way to actually promote, you know, on your own website and social media, and say, you know, we've got all of this. You know, when you come, you know, you get a piece of flapjack if you've cycled to us, and a hot drink. It's just nice little incentives to really connect with people as well. And a bit more on those pre-nesters and empty nesters. I hate those phrases, but just to give you that context, it's people, you know, who typically won't have children at that time, therefore they can travel throughout the year as well. But also, you know, you will want to work with people that have got families. You might be particularly a campsite, and you're really reliant on actually, you know, those 6 weeks in the summer and the summer holiday, and the spring holidays and the autumn holiday, and actually say, no, we really need to focus on getting more families. But it's worth thinking about those people who are traveling not with children, because they can come throughout the year. They can come in January, February, they can come in November and December. So actually you can actually open up your audience and your markets to actually, so you've got more people coming throughout the year. So it's good, again, to think about that. And also, again, it's not just about marketing, it's about what you're offering as well. So have you got special incentives? Have you got special activities going on? People that travel without children tend to look more for experiences to do and activities to fill their weekend or their break, because they've got that extra time, they've got the extra money. So what else can you be doing to work with a local activity provider or a local experience provider, and actually building something that's much more than just an accommodation, or vice versa? If you're an activity provider, could you be working with a local accommodation provider and offering something a bit more experiential to these particular audiences? And just to talk you through some of that segmentation, then this is data for the whole of the Southwest region back in 2020. And this gives you some information about the different audiences compared Southwest to the total the UK. So the total UK is in the orange, yellow, and the teal colour is the Southwest region. So you can see already in the walk-in and the countryside, the Southwest outperforms the UK 43% walk-in. So, you know, we know whether this is domestic or international, the Southwest is an excellent area for walk-in, going for a hike at 35%, and also the coastline, obviously, being a major factor. And when we look on the other side, more looking at experiencing the rural life and scenery, again, the Southwest outperforms the UK, 29% of the countryside and villages, and going to the coast and to the beach also, it's 26% as well. So, you know, a lot of that work has been done for you in actually educating audiences about your region. So actually, you know, if you've got products around that, you know, whether that's an experience on a beach or doing, you know, foraging or something on the beach, or taking people for a coastline walk or a countryside walk, you know, these people are already coming to the Southwest, they're already coming to North Devon, they're looking for product and ways to kind of to book things as well. I'm going to pause just there because there's a lot of information, and Sarah, I don't know if there's any questions coming in at the moment. It might not be, because I know there's been a lot of listening, so I can just, if anybody's got any questions, please do pop them into the chat window. Just pop them in and just pop your question down, and then throughout the rest of the workshop we'll answer those sessions to make it a bit more interactive, because I'm just fully aware that I'm talking a lot.
Yeah, no questions at the moment, but thank you to C, I think it's Chris, for letting Louise know how she could change her slide so that you could see it. I did just want to point out though that I think you were referring to the North Devon Biospheres North Devon Explorer app.
Yes.
Earlier. Yeah, it's not a DMO.
Right,
it's just a web. Yeah. Just in case people.
Yeah, I meant
they have that.
a tourism organisation that people find, whether it's an app or something.
Yes.
Information. Yeah, definitely.
Thanks.
Cool. Okay, that brings us nicely on to the complex world of travel distribution and the industry. So it's quite a complex industry. It'd be good to know in the chat window if anybody's already kind of working with travel trade at the moment, whether that's with travel agents or tour operators, ticketing websites, online travel agents, OTAs. It'd be good to hear from you. So this is a simple structure of how the distribution network works. So we have, you know, your principal suppliers, which could be you, it could be accommodation providers, it could be attractions, experience providers. And then that obviously then you've got two different ways of doing that. You can either go down the wholesale route of actually working with wholesalers, destination management companies, DMCs, and actually getting your market down to consumers. Or as many of us do, it's actually working with the retailers. So it's actually working with travel agents, online travel agents, tour operators, ticketing agents, and specialist travel agents. And that's the way we're going to be, that's what we're going to be focusing more on today, is that retail aspect of getting your products ready and getting them bookable, so that consumers, whether they're domestic or international, know that you exist and they can book. So a question for everybody. What distribution channels are you currently using to get your products to market? So it'd be really interesting to know, are you using Airbnb, are you using booking.com, Expedia? Are you working with a travel agent in, say, Germany, for example? Or are you selling your accommodation through lastminute.com, for example? So again, love to hear if you're already doing any of this, just pop it into the chat window and Sarah and I will bring it out. So we've got Chris, who's looking, who does distribution for Airbnb, Verbo, which is a bit similar to Airbnb, big in North America, and just setting up free to book, which I'm not so familiar with actually, so that's interesting. So Chris is using.
That's the one I mentioned last week, Chris.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got quite a few businesses in this area that are using free to book. Yeah.
Beth's doing pottery breaks through Airbnb. It's a business using it. And going back to Chris's comment, that's really interesting to see, not just reliant on one online travel agent, one OTA, which I think is really, which is good. So you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. you're actually opening up fully to the various markets, because some people will use Airbnb, some people will use Read the Book or Vivo or cottages, you know, so you're actually marketing to various different audiences. So that's great. Tim's using Airbnb and Buy a Gift. So you're going to grab the, you know, the tourists for Airbnb, but Buy a Gift is the kind of more of the gift market. So people looking to actually book an experience or an activity or accommodation as a present, as a gift. So that's that's good as well. And trying Unmissable England. Oh, that's good. Thank you. Basically, there's through Sally's working through an agent. Sites, holiday cottages as well. Obviously, it's cottage let. There's various different ways. So I'm gonna C is working with Ho Seasons as well. So let me thank you for sharing, everybody. That's really helpful and really useful and good to see. I'll take you a bit through those different channels then. Another complex spreadsheet or chart, should I say. Remember, you get all these slides sent to you. This is my take on how that distribution level really works within the retail area. So you've got you, the experience provider, or if you might be an accommodation provider or an attraction or a tour guide, that's you at the very top. Now you have various ways to get your products to market. So you might be in the green there, you might be using the booking system. So you might have a bespoke booking system on your own website if you're using GoDaddy or Wix or some of these kind of online website creators. They have their own built-in systems. Now, often those systems don't interconnect into other systems. So if you're starting from scratch, really do your homework to make sure that your booking system interlinks with other ones, because you want to sell your experience, your accommodation, your activity, and as many shop windows as possible. So this is not about putting your eggs in just one basket. It's about putting your eggs in lots of different baskets, so you reach different audiences, different markets, different countries around the world. So you're not just promoting to one audience. With booking systems, there's systems like FareHarbor and others like that. And they can connect into sites like Expedia, TripAdvisor, Viator, Get Your Guide, but also generate some direct web sales to your own website as well. Now, there are others out there, it's not just FareHarbor, and dare I say, you might have some, you might want to comment in the chat window that you use. But ideally, when you're looking for a booking system, you want it to kind of distribute your product further and do that work for you. Now, some of those booking systems link into TXGB. TXGB stands for Tourism Exchange Great Britain. It's a product, a software, online software created and ran by VisitBritain, the National Tourist Board. And that can connect also into sites like Expedia, TripAdvisor, and Viator, but also with a DMO, a destination management organization, which is like Visit Devon, for example. So that might be something you might be looking to do. There is another one, as well as TXGB, there is Beyonc, which is more geared around experiences, activities, admissions and tours. Unmissable England, we link into Beyonc. So you can either come onto Unmissable England directly if you've got an experience, or you can come via Beyonc. And that then gives you, then you can put it on your own website, and also it's then shared to other tourism websites as well. Or you might choose to go direct to an online travel agent. So, for example, Airbnb is only direct. Airbnb doesn't link into other websites and different things. It does for accommodation, and you can go through a booking system for accommodation, but not for experiences. For experiences, it's completely standalone. And that's because Airbnb is 20%. So their commission is set at 20% for all of their experiences, unless it's a social impact, a social impact, a good cause experience, if you're a charity. But on average, it's 20. And for that 20%, you're not just paying to use their booking system or have your experience listed. You're actually paying for the insurance as well. So actually they'll insure you for your experience, which is great to do if you're starting an experience is brand new and fresh, especially if you're an individual beginning your new business as well. So Airbnb will insure you, but what they look for is that you actually have Airbnb guests on your Airbnb experience. So therefore, if you're mixing your guests with Airbnb guests with Booking.com, Unmissable England, TripAdvisor, etc., Airbnb really doesn't like that because they want the exclusivity. So you need to be careful and mindful of that as well. Not to say that people don't do it, because they do, but you do need to think about how Airbnb will do that. And also you need to keep a check on your bookings, because the Airbnb won't marry up with your bookings on TripAdvisor, etc. You'll need to do that admin to actually make sure you're staying up to date with all your bookings, you're contacting guests, and you're not overbooking or what have you. You can also go direct to Expedia, get your guide, TripAdvisor and Viator. There are many other online travel agents out there as well, but it's good to think about where and how you're going to be set up to actually distribute, whether it's your experience, activity or accommodation. So once you've got ready, you obviously want to get ready and go to market. So there are various different ways to do that, as we've been looking at. And that retail way of going to an online travel agent, a distributor, is what we advise, most businesses to do. But you need to be ready. So it's no good just kind of, right, I'm going to sign up and off I go. You need to have your experience and information ready, whether that's your accommodation information or your experience information. You're going to have fresh copy and content that really appeals. So if you joined us in the workshop last week, we were talking about the relevance of actually having stories around your product. So actually really engaging with the audience and actually communicating to that audience about how they will feel if they were to book and come on your trip, to come and stay with you, to eat in your restaurant. Actually use those real, that good marketing piece to actually draw people in to book. Imagery is so important these days. Good quality photographs, videos, reels. These can really help not just market but also distribute your product further. Sites like Airbnb are now actually encouraging more people to not just put photographs up, but actually to put videos up of your accommodation, of the bedroom, of your experience, etc. So guests can actually just have a little preview. You don't want to show too much because you don't want to give too much away, but because you want them to come, but you want to give enough to actually inspire them and actually to book. And you really need to be reliable and contactable as well. So a lot of these sites and apps and online, Airbnb for example, they'll give you a time frame to how often and when to reply to guests, and that will impact on your reviews, on your scoring. Are you a 5-star, you're a super host, or because you left it a day before getting back to a customer, have you now gone to 4.9% out the star rating? So all these things that you kind of need to be ready if you're going to use these things as well. And also, if you're working with the travel trade more generally, so if you've been introduced or you've been contacted by a tour operator, be ready to kind of give them that kind of short elevator pitch about what your product's about, what you do and who you are as a business as well. And really importantly, that pricing structure of the different rates and commissions is going to be really important, because all of the different ways to actually get to market isn't free, because it's going to market your accommodation, your restaurant, your tour, your experience. So these guys are going to be doing all that great work for you to distribute, to market your product, to get you bookings. So you're going to have to give up some of that percentage in order to do that work. And now some businesses say, well, I don't want to give 10-15%. And I say to them, well, what are you spending on your marketing? What are you spending, to get people in? And it's like, well, I've got to print the leaflet, I've got to post my website, I've got someone to design the website, and I'm doing that advert. And actually, that's all marketing costs. And distribution is the same. It's a marketing cost. And there's various different fees. You can go from 5% up to 25%. and you can pick and choose the relevant commission for you. But what I always say is to keep your pricing the same. So in our in-person workshop, Sarah and I heard how some businesses like to offer people that book directly a discount, which is great and it's fine, and many businesses do that. But if you're working with a tour operator and that tour operator sees that people can book cheaper with you than that tour operator's website, that tour operator won't want to work with you very long, because they will see, well, I'm doing all this marketing, and people can copy and paste the name of the accommodation, Google it, and actually book you cheaper. And that's why it's really important to have a consistent pricing strategy throughout, because actually you don't want to drop your prices by 10 or 20%. You want to take that 20% or 10% yourself, because you're doing the marketing. You're having to pay for that website. You're having to pay for that designer. You're doing all that time to market your products, whether it's your Facebook, your Instagram, your social media. So keeping your pricing across the board and actually factor in 20%, from the offset will help you do that. But it is obviously relevant to the different products that you might have as well. So do think about that. And if you're working with tour operators, think about offering them free trips as well. So if you're running an experience, offer a few places to the trade and possibly media to come and try it. So actually, in return, they'll write about it in the local, or not local, sorry, in a particular magazine or publication. That will give you bookings. So be ready to do these trips. We call them familiarization trips. And often the trade are looking for new products, and they'll say, "Oh, can I come? Can I come, stay? Can I do your experience and see if we can actually sell some, beds for you? Can we sell some tickets for you?" So kind of, again, being ready as well, and that quick turnaround as well, because sometimes you get those calls and you kind of got to be ready and set up to obviously take bookings if you're a new business. So you kind of got to have that set up and ready to go if you're looking to work with the travel trade. So I'm going to have a quick look in the questions on the chat window to see if there's any questions coming in, because I think it's good just to. I can't see any questions at the moment. Do pop your questions into the chat window, because as I said, we like to hear from you to answer any questions at all. Just looking through the Vals, Farmstay UK, Devon Farms, Booking.com. So various different ways. This is really great to see that a lot of you are already working with various different online travel agents and different target audiences, because Farmstay UK is quite a different audience from Booking.com, and Booking.com obviously is global as well. So you're going to be reaching people from all over the world. So it's really nice to see. Okay, let's move back to slides for a second. Was that so? A word on pricing and creating that value. So value is so important in what we do, and so when I talk to businesses about kind of setting their pricing, and this can be for an experience, for accommodation, etc. You've got to kind of work out your costs first of all, and a lot of businesses, they kind of delve into running something and maybe they haven't done all of this, and I think it's just really good, to get a piece of paper, or dare I say a spreadsheet, and actually start working out all of your costs to actually run your experience, your activity, or hosting your room. That will help you actually work out what you're spending in order to offer that product. Because so many times we do this, we actually see that businesses think, "Oh my God, I do spend so much time on planning that experience. I go and do a recce, I go and check it out, I walk it before, or what have you, or I go and pick up this and do that." And actually, that's 2 hours. Are you charging for your time, all that free time that you're doing to actually be prepared? So actually cost out everything. And on the screen there is a kind of a detailed look at actually pricing up an experience. So it includes everything from your local marketing, commission with an online travel agent, through to hiring a boat, for example. And once you've got those costs, you can then work out what it is you'll need to charge. What do you need to charge per person, what you need to charge for a couple, and what you need to charge for groups? And you can then work up that scalable approach. And when you're doing that, once you've got your kind of costs and you've worked out what your costs are, you need to do a bit of research on your competitors and your pricing. Now, when I talk about competitors, don't just think about your competitors as being local or regional. Think of them being about similar to what you do. And you might have done this already. But for example, say you are trying to target more cyclists and walkers to your premises, and you know it's a B&B. Well, have a look online what other cycling themed hotels and B&Bs are doing and what they're pricing in as well, whether that's in Devon, Norfolk or Kent, for example. It's just good to have some fresh eyes to see what your competitors are doing and make sure that you are, you know, at that right price point as well. You're not offering something, you know, too good value in the sense of not offering and not taking enough money, but also not pricing yourself out of the market. And really think about those target audiences which we touched on at the beginning, and think about them and who you're trying to attract. You know, so we mentioned about the German audience as an example. You know, thinking about delving into those different markets, thinking what's right for you, and which ones you would like to target more and more. And then think about the seasonality as well. Will your price reflect this? So will you lower your prices slightly in the traditional, out of the traditional kind of summer period, and actually have, you know, cheaper rates, say from October to March, for example, and actually, you know, encourage people to book your accommodation in that time. So you offer an extra incentive to come and stay with you. And really do factor in those distribution costs as well, also known as commissions. So don't think about adding them in extra. It should be on that spreadsheet, on that list. Actually, that's your marketing cost. You know, that 10%, that 20% that Airbnb will take, or whatever the online travel agent is. Think of that as a marketing cost, not just as a distribution commission that's taken at the end. And if you're brand new to any of this, then you probably want to start your pricing a little bit lower than what feels really comfortable, especially if you're offering a new experience. But anything within tourism, you know, you need reviews. You need, you know, peer-to-peer reviews that really promote and push your experience. And if you've got a product that's got no reviews and it's really expensive, it's going to be a really hard sell. It's going to be really hard to kind of get going. I always encourage businesses to kind of start a little bit lower than what they feel comfortable in order to actually get those reviews, to get bookings. And then after 6 months, 1 year, depends on your business, then you can start increasing it. So you're not just starting actually saying, oh, I've got no bookings, I've got no reviews. But actually, you know, especially around experiences and activities, it's good to start that a little bit lower. And a word on commission, as I said, you know, because I do hear a lot of businesses saying, and today has been really great because I can see so many of you are already working with Airbnb, Booking.com, etc. So the commission isn't an extra thing, but, you know, kind of just think about that being part of your marketing budget, and not that add-on extra as well. So that's more geared around your creating experiences. So when you're creating an experience, you want to create experiences that visitors can't simply do by themselves. And I think that applies for all tourism, really. The more you can offer in your product, in your experience, your accommodation, your activity, you want to add value into what you do. So if you're having, you know, when you arrive to your B&B, you've got some freshly prepared scones, you know, jam and cream. That's, you know, an outstanding piece that guests will remember. They will tell their, you know, friends and family and said, you know, I wasn't expecting this. You know, this is great. And, you know, they're going to write about that in their review, hopefully, and other guests will get to see that as well and think, actually, this place is great. I'm going to book this because look, you know. So adding that value will really help you stand out in the marketplace once you've gone to the marketplace to actually get more bookings. So we're going to come towards the end of our more of our formal part of the session, and then we're going to take questions from you and hopefully give you lots of the answers as well. So if you have got a question, please start popping that into the chat window so that we can then take them and we can answer your questions on getting to market, distribution, but also generally as well about how, if there's anything around the tourism sector that you need support with at the moment, more than happy to answer those questions as well. But just some next steps for you to kind of take away from today's workshop, and here's your checklist. It's really decide on that market, decide who you're trying to reach, that audience, domestic, international, and then within those markets, think about the different segments as well, the different people as well, and make sure you do a research. So there's lots of information on the Visit Britain, Visit England website around domestic and international markets, and we can make sure you've got the links to those two websites as well, so you can have a look. For example, if you're looking to target more of the French audience or maybe the American audience, there's fact sheets on the Visit Britain website where you can actually see in a lot of detail, when they're coming to the UK, what they're looking for, and the different kind of age brackets those groups of people might be coming. And so you can actually really get a good understanding on the various different markets. And understand and focus on those segments as well. So don't try and understand who your audience is. And you might know this already. You might be set up running your business for a while, and you've got to understand and say, people. I get a lot of people, Dutch people coming over, and they like doing their walking holidays, and they book my B&B, and they tend to come in couples without kids, and they come between spring and a bit of autumn. You might already have this information, which is great. So, use that information to actually focus and actually see what else you can do to actually enhance that to get further bookings. And once you have got those markets ready, be prepared to actually think about those different audiences as well, and how you might want to diversify those audiences, whether that's cycling, walking, car free. For example, people with disabilities, for example, get overlooked as a segment, but people with learning difficulties and disabilities often travel in what's known as the low season, and that's because on average those groups of people like to travel when it's quieter, so they can travel out of the school holidays on average when it's quieter, and therefore they can travel with a carer or other family members or with their family, and actually they get a bit more time to actually go and do these things as well. So it's kind of a big audience that doesn't get looked at often, but actually trying to attract people with disabilities during that lower season is a really good segment to focus on. And think about your pricing plan, where you can add value and also have those commissions already filtered into your pricing as well. I think we have got some time now for questions. So I'm going to bring back Sarah, because we did this together.
Yeah, I can't see any questions actually at the moment. But what I did want to raise, Chris, was what you were telling me about earlier, what you did this afternoon, and the discussion we had around that. If you want to, or I can. If you want to take a breath for a minute.
So those who know me, right? I run VisitBritain England, but I do my own experiences as well. So this morning and this afternoon, I did a scone experience. So in my cottage here in Oxfordshire, where I live, we've got a small little cottage, and we do experiences. And we had a couple all the way from New York. We have a lot of Americans. They book through on VisitBritain England or through Airbnb. And I do a scone making experience where they come and they see our cottage, they learn about history, they understand about what we've done to it to restore it. So we've done all the stonework and dry stone wall and all that kind of stuff. And then they get to make scones themselves using an old family recipe. And then I take them on a short walking tour, visiting a church, remains of an old castle, and then we come back and then they eat the cream tea that they have made themselves. And these American guests, and they, as I said, have quite a few American guests, they are looking for more and more of these types of experiences, because there isn't enough in the UK for them to do. And the UK is quite behind in experiential tourism compared to America and Canada and Australia, for example. And they were looking for things like a fish and chip experience, or those kind of things. They were going down to Cornwall next, and they were like, "Is there anywhere do a Cornish pasty experience?" It's that kind of stuff more and more that people are looking for, especially that North American market. So if you've got any ideas like that, we'd love to hear from you, because that's what the market's looking for. They're looking for those quirky, off the beaten track, meeting a local person, spending a couple of hours with that person as well. But I know, Sarah, you had a big point about it being relevant as well.
Oh yeah, and also, I mean, I was saying, to me, although I would love to come and do your experience, I eat cream teas quite a lot. So when I think us as British citizens, we think about that, we're like, oh well, who's going to want to do that, and who's wants to pay 80 odd quid or something to go and do that? But I said, well, if I was to go to Spain, I would probably play that to go and make paella in a typical Spanish house. So I think we just need to try and put ourselves in their shoes and see the difference that it's going to make. And actually, I was kind of putting a couple of links together here, and I know we've got Tim on from Tourview Wines, who does a brilliant vineyard tour, and I was thinking maybe for Tim, to get more international visitors, he could also, I'm not telling him that he needs to go and bake scones with them, but he could maybe bring in a ready-made sort of package, like a little hamper of drinking the wine or having the wine tasting alongside a cream tea. Well, the scone, not the tea, the cup of tea, that is. But maybe that could be a good way for him to gain more international visitors.
Yeah, I mean, welcome down. I mean, from my experience, it's designed for mostly a North American market. I get a few French, Italians, Dutch, Germans. It's not for Brits. It's not for a domestic customer, because it's £78 per person, and most Brits, what you said, Sarah, is what they think and why they don't book. It's like, I don't want to spend £78 per person for 2.5 hours to make scones, because I can do that at home. Whereas if you're coming, from a long distance and you want those kind of, it's not necessarily a cliche, but you want scones in England, that's really cool. Visit an old cottage, so it's all really, it's got to be relevant and stuff like that. So this is what I was talking about, knowing your markets, your audiences, and then being ready, having products that are designed for that audience, which might not be relevant to another audience, but that it's going to work. So I think we've only had, it was just outside one of the lockdowns, I think we had somebody from Wales and someone from the UK. The rest of the time, it is just international visitors.
Yeah. So they are out there and they do want.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And they're also then going to also want somewhere to stay, and maybe want recommendations on where to stay as well while they're here. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm thinking of doing a Cornish pasty walk, or I'll call it a Devonian pasty, or a fish and chip experience. I won't be making it myself, but I can take them to a really good spot for it. Absolutely,
yeah, that's what they're looking for. Often when we go on holiday, we want to know where the best places are to, to go and have fish and chips and stuff like that. We've always had a terrible fish and chips, but we always want to go and know where it's good to go. So having that local stuff is really good. I got a question from Tim. Hi, Chris.
Yeah.
Options managing. So Tim has asked a question. He's interested in the options for managing experience bookings, which come from your website, Airbnb, and buy a gift. There isn't a way of doing that. As I said earlier on, Airbnb is completely standalone with experiences. Accommodation, it's a little bit easier, and Airbnb does have a channel manager that you can channel managers that link into it. But Airbnb, as it currently stands, it doesn't link in. You're going to have to be doing everything manually, and probably with buy a gift as well, because that's outside of the kind of travel sphere of distribution as well. So interesting to know, Tim, what you use on your website for bookings. If you've got a built-in software, is it something you designed yourself? Feel free to chat. You can join us in the conversation.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, at the moment, it's all through the website, and we're using different voucher schemes. So people have got to manually enter a voucher. But in terms of the logistics, it can be a nightmare trying to dovetail. And also, pre or mid COVID, it was limiting number of people and being able to manage, trying to keep the experience real for people and not overbooking.
Absolutely. So with the website, what is the tool you're using? How you did? Is that something you designed yourself? Is it something? Is it a GoDaddy, Wix website? What?
I've got an external person designing it, and at the moment it kind of works in a piecemeal way, but actually you can spend more time managing how many people you've got, and actually spending less time on doing the experiences if you've got to do the background.
Exactly, it's a big piece of work. Yeah, absolutely. I can send you some information. Basically, it's very similar to that chart I showed you. But one of the ways that we do that is we use a Bionc, and we then take the information from Bionc, and then Bionc then distributes to our, there we go. We've got Beth that's mentioned about Booking Hound, which is now Bionc. So you can then use that as well. I can send you a link to that, and that link will help you connect in some of the other places as well.
I know at the workshop, Chris, we did say we may look into having a call with Bionc, didn't we? And possibly that the Biosphere could have their own set of experiences that then go on to Bionc. So that is something that I am keen to continue looking into. So,
so maybe if you can hold on a little bit longer, Tim, and then Sarah and I have that conversation and see if we can, because we were talking about having, like as Sarah said, like a collection of experiences across North Devon, and that's then that collection, but also that then can go on to Unmissable England, Visit Devon, other places that Bionc will distribute for you. It won't link into your Airbnb. It won't link into your buy a gift because they're standalone. So there's some of them that kind of like to work together, and then there's some that don't. And you'll find that across the distribution network.
And am I right in thinking, Chris, as well, that if you sell experiences on Airbnb, you're not supposed to be taking bookings on the same day or time?
Airbnb like exclusivity, though people do it. So if you had two come from Airbnb and somebody come from buy a gift on the same experience at the same time on the same day, you have your own business insurance, and that will kind of cover that anyway. But Airbnb would say, well, we're insuring you and your guests, and therefore you're inviting two other guests who are not actually we don't know anything about. Therefore, they won't like that. So you just got to be careful on that.
Of course,
I've been saying for many years that they're going to try and relax that, but I haven't seen anything to say that that's the case. So
well, I mean, we had that checked in advance with buy a gift, and Airbnb were keen to sign us up, and it was done on that basis. So actually, from our perspective, we're covered, but actually it can be a logistical nightmare with an Airbnb exclusive booking, not wanting other people on them. And it's little nuances like that that make it tricky.
I share that with you, and I know other people probably on this call as well. Chris says, can you use these experience activity booking sites if you don't do experience yourself? But I've got a thing in the way, but you link to
the customer to local experiences.
I think that's what Sarah and I were talking about, actually having the North Devon's Biosphere website, with lots of different experiences, and you can link that page or that mini website that actually has all those different experiences. I think I've read that right. Again, Chris, more than welcome to kind of join us in the conversation. But having that kind of a link so that your guests can actually, you can recommend them in one place, all these different experiences.
I think it would just be nice to be, I mean, we'd say to people when they're here what there is locally to do, but if you could link into an actual site like the one you're talking about, your Unmissable, I haven't looked at it, sorry, but Unmissable England, if it, we can offer these experiences, but we're literally just a pointer in that direction.
Absolutely.
We're there where you can stay, but we can
and if you even do that on Booking, as we see people book experiences and activities, way before traveling, especially international guests, you know, that German audience, you know, 3 to 6 months before, you can actually, you know, thank you for booking, and here's some of our suggestions on this website of things that you can book in advance. So then actually get that all out there ahead, and that's great for business, and it's great for the local area as well. So
Yeah,
absolutely. We're always looking for new product. We actually don't have much experiences currently in Devon. So we're always looking for new products, and we're more than well, you know, we're really happy to work with new businesses and existing businesses as well, who are looking to put new things together. And hopefully this website as well we've talked about will come.
I'm really keen to look into that further. And also, Chris, we do have, I'm not sure if I've sent it to you already, information about the North Devon Explorer app, which is a biosphere sort of made web app, which is trying to create a more sustainable tourism by giving people information on natural highlights, cultural highlights, nature reserves. It's still got the beaches and everything on there, but we're trying to spread the economy more inland as well, and really the hotspots. So did you know about that one already?
I did the biosphere course that you ran in Bideford.
That was the Marine Wildlife Aware.
Did that one.
So I'm not sure if I mentioned Explorer there, but I may have. I'll drop you a line with the post there, and there's information on there that you could display to your guests, and they can just scan the barcode and from there sort of filter through the different categories as well. But I'll certainly be chatting with Chris after this to try and set up a call with Beyond to see if we can try and bring a few more experienced providers together and set that up, because I think that would be really worthwhile.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I know Val had said that was it Val or somebody else? Val. I've had customers this week who have said just the same thing to me about that she should offer baking lessons to her guests.
Hey.
They were British and had been visiting for more than 20 years. Well, there you go. Have you given them some cakes already? Then maybe they love them so much that, they want to learn how to do it with you.
Well, I offer scones on arrival.
Yeah. And you make them yourself?
I make them myself every time guests arrive, and so they have them fresh.
So maybe have a think about, do you want to be letting others take part in that, or?
Well, I don't know. I've considered it, but I don't know. And I do a banana muesli breakfast loaf that I send them off with if they have that for breakfast, because they have a great deal of choice on my breakfast menu, and they pick and choose what they want. And when they choose that one, I send them away with the recipe.
Okay,
that's nice.
Which I think is the right thing to do. But if there's people around who've got experiences, I also have a digital app which I send the guests before they arrive. And that has links to the local attractions and where to eat, and they can actually book the restaurants on the app. And they can book the attractions on the app. So if I could hook up to, like the Tim with his wine and that sort of thing, that would be really useful, because that's another thing that my guests can access, and so that would be good for me.
And again, this is the whole point of why I love doing these webinars, because the tourism industry here is large, and you're not on your own. And I think ensuring that you're working with others, it's not really like competition. It's you're all sort of helping each other out, and it's good for you to be networking as well with others and finding out what else is out there at the moment.
Absolutely.
I see Chris has asked what the app is. It's a digital app that I use for my guests that is from not Hostfully. My brain is going to give up, but it's like Hostfully. It's specifically for my B&B. But it's like Hostfully, so it has my rooms on it and all the facilities that my rooms have, and then it interconnects to all the facilities that are around the area.
Yeah.
So it links with Google Maps and things like that.
Okay.
And Adam's just said that they use TouchStay, and that's one that
TouchStay, that's it.
There we go. It's the same as Adam then.
That's one I've heard of.
And it is fantastic. It's much better actually than Hostfully, because Hostfully I found was, when I was looking at it, Hostfully was very clunky from the visitor's viewpoint, whereas TouchStay is very clean when the visitor looks at it.
Yeah.
You know, they're both about the same for us to set up, but for the visitor to look at, TouchStay is very clean and neat and tidy.
Yeah.
And my guests love it.
I know quite a few accommodation providers are now, there's some not necessarily moving away from the paper sort of guides, welcome sort of guides when they get there, but they certainly are sending out these digital apps to help.
Yeah.
I guess around following on from COVID, it's become a lot more popular. Some say they prefer the paper sort of one still, and they don't want to go near it, but it's
but it also goes back to the point, more and more people are booking ahead, you know, that when they're staying those nights with you, you know, they probably got most of their schedule booked, you know, whether they've just kind of done that themselves with a Google search, Google Map search, what have you. So actually when they get to the bedroom browser and it's like, oh, you know,
I wish I'd known about this sooner.
But I think bedroom browsers are brilliant.
I mean, I still have a hard copy for those who can't upload it.
But also people that don't plan. There are some people. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And there's good to see some of the networking going on as well.
So, brilliant.
It's I know they've been sharing emails and stuff like that, which is as well. So good.
Okay, so Dad, and I hope that's answered the questions that have come up. Does anybody have any more? If you want to just chip in now, rather than writing it down before we go. Otherwise, I think, what time are we at? Oh yeah.
If you think of a question afterwards, or you wake up in the middle of the night and think I should have asked that, you know, contact Sarah, and Sarah can put the message for me, and I'm more than happy to answer it another time as well. So, you know, I hope today's been really useful. I hope you've learned a lot and kind of, you know, it's kind of opened your mind a little bit more to thinking about the different markets, the different international markets, and then thinking a bit further down into those markets. And we'll share the we'll share the slide deck, but also the sheets from Visit Britain to actually have a little bit more detail in those different target audiences. But thank you very
much, Chris. If you can send those over to me, and then I'll send everything out with the recording of the webinar so people can look back as well. I've had a couple of messages asking me if I can sort of send people in the direction of previous events that we've done as well. So I can send out to those who've asked the information from last week's webinar, which was all about marketing your tourism business, and the one we did last year on experiential tourism as well. That was the webinar was just an introduction, wasn't it, which we did, which was really useful. We then followed that up with a workshop
in person.
So I will send that information out to everybody, hopefully by the end of the week. Where are we now? Tuesday.
Brilliant. Thanks for your message, everybody.
Sorry, I just wanted to say to Adam, just because he just commented there, and hopefully he's still here, that I just love his idea of setting up a bakery where teaching people how to make the sourdough bread, and then that would be a great one as well, I would imagine, to pop onto On Visit England, hopefully via us and via
and then that, you know, Adam, you'll get more exposure of that because there'll be several different organizations doing the marketing of your experience, and therefore you've got a spread of hopefully guest booking. So it's exciting.
Okay. Oh, there he is. Is that all right, Adam?
That's great. Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
Okay then, well, thank you very much for joining us, everybody, and yeah, I will send some information out about where you can find out about future events as well if you're not already on our mailing list.
Brilliant. Cheers. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.